Well, hello there and welcome to this video, and today I want to talk about the Sheridan and the ATGM missiles because, yeah, it's kind of blowing up in everyone's face at the moment. So I just want to talk about it. Obviously I don't have enough data as maybe Wargaming has, and this video is just purely my opinion, and you can also discuss it with me in the comments, so, but don't be an asshole. So yeah, I even made a script for this video, and the script reads, wait, let me see, no voice cracks. Okay. Good, we have that out of the way, so let's get right into it. The question of this video is, are these tanks overpowered, and if so, are they overpowered in a regular player's hands, or are they only overpowered in a good player's hands? Well, that's what I'm here to find out today. And you see 3 games, two in the Sheridan, one in the T92. First one's by me, and you'll see that it's okay, then the second one's by GC. So just stay tuned, you'll get into it. And yeah, let's take a closer look at the tank, and let's start off with the armor of the light tank. So here's a picture of the XM551 Sheridan in the armor inspector, and you can clearly see that it doesn't really have a lot of armor around it. Obviously it's a light tank, so it can't have a lot of armor because it's fast, which is kind of obvious being a light tank. But one thing that you can immediately see is that it has a lot of spaced armor on the sides. So if you don't hit the center mass of the tank, then it's possible that the shell just goes into the spaced armor and deals no damage whatsoever. And also, due to the tank being pretty much made out of spaced armor completely, it is very, very hard to penetrate this vehicle with HE, which also makes it very, very good. Then again, the Batchat with its funky armor angles has kind of the same thing, but you can penetrate that in more reliable spots and a lot better. And about the T92, basically the same, has a lot of weird funky armor angles that it's hard to penetrate with HE, so you have a really, really strong armor profile for it being a light tank on this vehicle. Then, second of all, what do we look at? Mobility. It's clear that it's a light tank, so it has to be fast, so there's no real point looking at that. So then, let's look at the controversial part of this vehicle, the gun. So now, this is where it gets interesting. First, right off the bat, you can see 2,290 damage per minute, which is not really any good. For example, an Object 140 has almost 1,000 damage per minute more than that. Then, reload time, 14 seconds. Obviously, it's a big gun and has a long reload, so it takes a lot of time. Then, the penetration, 241, 341. The APCR, pretty standard penetration for a T10 light or medium tank, so nothing too special there. But then we have high explosive anti-tank, and that's the problem about this tank. It's not actually heat, it's ATGM missiles. Missiles that are very, very slow. However, you can guide them. Guiding them it needs some training, but once you master it, you can shoot people from behind hills. No problem about that. And 241 penetration, that is pretty much more than any other medium tank has at its disposal. So, yeah, as you can see there on the E5, just why not? The rockets are very, very slow. That's the downside of them. But still, you can shoot them over rocks. Why not? Then obviously, let's look at the damage. 560 with the APCR, which is very, very high. So there's the kind of trade-off that you have. For example, with an Object 140 or the T628, you have the DPM. You can do that. But with this vehicle, what you can do is you can run around, you can get a heavy tank from the side, you can shoot him for 600 damage, and you can run around again. With an Object 140, you can't do that, because with this tank, you can basically out-trade every 120mm heavy tank, which is kind of insane. But you can. So let's make this gun kind of special in that way. If that's not enough, you have the missiles, because why not? Those only do 490 damage, but that's still good. Like 490 damage on a missile, why not? Obviously it has to hit first, but it's a problem. So then we look at again 10 degrees of gun depression. Yeah, it's American, so it's good. The gun itself, it lacks DPM, but everything else is just insanely good. And also, if you know, in the WoT Tanks PC version, this gun is an HE derp gun. So this one is different because the APCR has missiles for some reason. Obviously, Blitz isn't the same as WoT Tanks PC, but WoT Tanks PC vehicle has a very, very competitive 105mm gun. So, if Wargaming would choose to change this vehicle in any way or adjust it, then what they should do is simply put this gun on HE only, HE and some low penetration heat, and give it the 105mm as an alternative. Would be a quick and easy fix, but obviously we're talking about Wargaming here, they're not going to do that. And as you can see in the game in the background, it's a 1v1 against an E100, and this is where the tank becomes problematic because the guy has a lot of armor, he has a lot of HP, I don't have armor, I don't have HP, so basically I have to just run around and try to hit him that way, but yeah, can't really do that much. Anyways, let's get back on track with the gun. Now, we saw the gun statistics, we saw it has a very low DPM, so now the question is, how does the average player perform with this vehicle? Because to understand how overpowered a tank is, you have to look at, is the tank making an average player a good player all of a sudden, or is the average player going to perform average and the good player going to perform good? In that case, you can't really call it overpowered in that sense. So let's look at the statistics of the tank. So, now here you have the statistics from BlitzStars. And as you can see, the Sheridan is quite in the middle. It's not at the top. It doesn't have some kind of insane win rate and some kind of insane damage. So as you can see there, the average player is not overpowered in the tank. The average player is not overpowered. For the average player, it doesn't really make a difference because, same with tanks, for example, like the Leopard 1. You can't make the Leopard 1... You can give the Leopard 1 5000 DPM, but bad players will still do bad in it because it doesn't have any armor. So that is not the problem with the Sheridan. And also the controversy that we talked about is not part of this problem either. It's not about the average players that the tank is completely insane in. You know, that's not the thing. For example, in WoT Tanks PC you have a Super Conqueror which has insane armor, insane gun, and insane mobility for a heavy tank. That thing is OP also in a bad player's hand. But this tank, it needs some special hands to really glow in the light. And now these special hands are demonstrated to you by GC here, also a YouTuber. Go subscribe to him, GC WoT B, if you are interested in that kind of stuff. Anyways, here's the thing. The controversy was mainly about tournaments. Is the XM allowed to be used in tournaments? And to me, that should be a definite no, because in a good player's hands, this tank is just hands down over fucking powered. Because one thing that most average players lack that great players possess is positioning. So basically, you know the enemies, you know where they are, you're aware where the enemies are, and you position yourself accordingly, which avoids you getting hit. And also you can see there, he just blew up a Leopard, because why not? And that's the positioning what makes this tank amazing. In the last battle you saw, I tried to outposition the E100, but the E100 was a good player. I couldn't do anything against him, because he knew what I was doing. If you're a good player up against a good player in a let's say E100, the chances are very low. But if you're a good player up against average players, then this thing is going to, hands down, just fuck everyone that's in your way. And there's the problem. In high tier tournaments, what you can do, you can park this thing behind a rock, you can point your gun upwards, and you can fire. And as you can see in that shot right there, the E100 doesn't have a chance. He can't fire back because you're hidden. You can't do anything about it. So the stupid thing of this tank is how stupidly overpowered it can be in a good player's hands. It's not about the average players. It's about the good players in this case. And obviously Wargaming tries to balance the tank around average players, which they in that case did. Actually, they balanced it for the average player pretty well, but they kind of forgot that the missiles, once some people spend hours and hours in training rooms perfecting them, that once that is over, that this tank is just gonna be fucking hilariously overpowered in those players' hands. And that's 4,000 damage in pretty much no time, and the enemies couldn't even shoot back at him because, yeah, just balance, basically. So now, there's not only the Sheridan, there's another little culprit here, and that is the T92E1, which supposedly got nerfed already, but in armor and all that, but you can still bounce C100 shells off it, so don't worry, it's still fucking overpowered. Don't worry. Another, I mean, basically a T49 on steroids, on a lot of steroids. And same problem with this tank, the ATGM missiles, and the unproportionate throughout light tank armor. What can you do about this? What can Wargaming do about this? Like I mentioned before, the Sheridan has a 105mm gun in World of Tanks PC. I have that Sheridan. I play it with 105mm, and to me it is very, very competitive. It's a very, very good tank. And also with the depth gun that it does 900 damage with the HE. So if Wargaming would have simply just put in a copy of the PC Sheridan, they would have run a lot better. I know that the devs don't want that. They don't want a copy of World of Tanks PC, but in that case they should have. Because what they did now, they created a mechanic that isn't really suitable for a game like World of Tanks Blitz. Because World of Tanks Blitz is an arcade tank shooter with guns that fly straight, basically. So obviously you can implement things like autoloaders and auto reloaders to diversify the field in that way. However, if you put in weird kinds of ammunition, then you're just gonna ruin the entire ecosystem of the game in that sense. Because what I could do now, I'm behind a rock here, I could just point my gun straight upwards and I could just shoot the E4 if I wanted to. And by the way, in this game you also see the different types of T92 players or light tank players, because one of the enemy T92s is already dead. He died a long time ago because he simply just YOLO'd. And the other T92 friend on the enemy team is doing the exact opposite. He's camping in spawn. So there's a difference. It's about the player. The player makes this tank overpowered, not the tank itself. In a bad player's hands, this thing's gonna be easy to defeat, and it is easy to defeat in a bad player's hands. But once you get it into a top clan's hands, and you put it up against other top clans in tournaments, this is gonna be an absolute fuckfest. And I can totally understand why everyone's so pissed about it. And I can understand why Rolling Swarm's so pissed about it. Because it's just stupid. My suggestion in that sense is just, for the people that want to play in the tournaments, that want the prize money and whatever, then they have to take the risk of getting fucked from behind the rock. And if you don't want that, if you think, no, these tanks are not worth it, we're not gonna do that. It's simple. Don't play tournaments. Let Wargaming know that you don't like it. And we saw in the past that if you cry enough, if you complain enough, that Wargaming will have to do something about it. Like, if anyone remembers the spare parts, for example, and the fucking timers, like, for God's sake, why did those exist? Like, ugh. But eventually, the timers got removed because people complained, and the spare parts got removed because enough people complained, and enough people also walked out because of that. So eventually Wargaming has to listen. But obviously they're a gaming company. Their first incentive is not to make the players happy. Their incentive is, let's make money. How do we make money? We try to make as many players happy as we can. We don't try to make the good players happy. We try to make the average player happy. And the average player isn't OP in this vehicle, so the average player might as well be happy with it. That's probably what they're thinking. I don't know. I'm not them. I have no idea about that. So that's basically what I'm thinking. And what you can also do is, if you're a good player and if you don't like the Sheridan, then for God's sake, just don't fucking play it. You know? If you complain about it, but then you play it, then you're good for nothing, man. It's not good for anything. That doesn't help. Then again, I'm not wargaming. I don't have all the data that they have and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not an expert on this, so this is just my opinion. I probably have to put that as a spoiler in the beginning of the video, because everyone's gonna cry in the comments. But anyways, as you can see in this game, now it's reversed. The enemies have a T92, and I don't know what that 183 just did. But yeah, the T92, he's just using his mobility and just running away, and this is gonna end in a draw. Spoiler alert. But yeah, the problem about the tanks is players that play them make them overpowered. And in tournaments, this is not good for WoT Blitz, because it does not fit what the game should be like. Obviously, this sounds like a die-hard purist kind of thing, but that's just the case. You know, if you have something good and you put something shit into it, the good will turn into shit eventually. Basically. So I think what you should do, if you have the Sheridan, try to not play it if you don't want it to be played. Try to avoid it. Try to talk to Wargame about it, even if they won't listen. Because as we saw with the spare parts and with the timers, eventually they will have to. Because they're a company, they want to make money. They're relying on you to pay them money because it's a free-to-play game. You don't need to spend money. They rely on people buying things. So if enough people leave, enough people stop buying stuff, they will have to eventually listen. So, final words for me on this one is, fuck the missiles, fuck the Sheridan, just give it the 105mm gun. That will basically make everyone happy. It wouldn't even make it a worse tank. Give it the 155mm derp too. Give it some fun. Just give it the KV2 gun. That's kind of fun. Make it a good tank. And stop with the fucking missiles. Thank you for watching. See you in the next time. And goodbye.